Meanwhile, talks to decisively end the war stalled. Donald Trump has previously rejected any plan that doesn't include an end to Tehran's nuclear program, something experts say that Iran is unlikely to agree to. Well, Monte Francis joins us from our news desk for more on this. Monte, why is reaching a deal between the US and Iran proving to be so difficult?
Well, Mark, to answer that question, just indulge me. I want to take you back in time to 2011, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Barack Obama is president. Donald Trump is in the audience. He's not even really yet a politician, but you might remember that he had raised doubts about Barack Obama's citizenship, which were untrue. Barack Obama, he produced his long-form birth certificate. Now, at that dinner, Obama couldn't resist taking some swings at Trump. Take a listen to what he said.
Donald Trump is here tonight. Now, I know that he's taken some flack lately, but no one is happier, no one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Like, did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac?
Now, Obama got in a bunch of zingers at Trump's expense. It's reported in that moment that Trump was really humiliated. In fact, a couple of high-profile journalists actually reported that that humiliation contributed to his decision to run for president. Of course, Trump denies this, but in any case, we've known for a long time that Trump is motivated by an animus toward Barack Obama and a desire to undo many of the things that he accomplished. We can see that from his attempts to undo Obamacare, the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement, also includes the JCPOA, or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, otherwise known as the Iran nuclear deal. Trump called it one-sided, the stupidest deal of all time, and then by executive order in 2018, he withdrew from the agreement. I don't want to oversimplify this, but it's just to sort of illustrate the point that any plan that doesn't look better than the JCPOA is not going to be seen as a success in Trump's eyes.
Indeed. So remind us, what were the terms of that nuclear agreement reached under the Obama administration?
Well, so 12 years of diplomatic work went into this. It wasn't just the U.S., but diplomats here in Europe, France, and Germany. Here's a quick look at some of the key points. We can see them on the screen there. It required Iran to limit its enrichment of uranium to a purity of 3.67%, well below the threshold needed to make nuclear weapons. It set a limit on Iran's stockpile of low-enriched uranium to no more than 300 kilograms. That was a huge decrease. It reduced the number of installed centrifuges by 2/3, and in return, economic sanctions against Iran were lifted. There was a sunset clause to all of these provisions, ranging from 8 to 15 years. An important thing to add, there's now an additional problem, which is the Strait of Hormuz. As a result of Trump's decision to go to war, that has now become part of the negotiations, and Trump critics say that has really been a self-inflicted wound.
So what happened as a result of Trump withdrawing from that deal in 2018? Did Iran ramp up its nuclear ambitions?
Yes, it did, quite significantly. And here's where critics say this is really a problem that Trump helped create by backing out of the deal. The International Atomic Agency was granted continuous access to Iran's nuclear facilities. The agency said it appeared Iran was complying with the agreement. Here's a look at this chart. I mentioned that under the deal, Iran agreed to reduce its enriched uranium to 300 kilograms. They actually agreed to ship 97% of their stockpile out of the country to Russia. Then you can see how Iran's stockpile shot up after 2018 and continued to grow. The New York Times reports that Iran now has a stockpile of 11 tons of enriched uranium, or 37 times the amount it had before. As for that more highly enriched 60% purity, that's at about 440 kilograms, and some of that is buried underground following the bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities back in June. Now, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, was asked if the JCPOA could serve as a foundation for any agreement moving forward, and here's how he responded to that question.
No, I don't see that as a point of departure. I don't think anybody sees that as a point of departure. It had its logic 11 years ago. Now, of course, apart from the fact that the United States has rejected it, there are technical reasons for that. You know, that agreement was predicated on a much smaller nuclear program with just one type of centrifuges and a much lower capacity. Now, Iran in the past few years has had an exponential progress. So it's a completely different ball game, as one would say here in America.
And so just to add one more thing, complicating all these negotiations, of course, is the issue of trust. There is not a lot of trust between the U.S. and Iran. Don't forget that, talks were literally underway when the bombs started dropping 2 months ago. For the Iranians, there's a big disconnect between what Donald Trump says and what he does. And it's also true the U.S. doesn't have a lot of trust for Iran.
Monte, thank you very much indeed for giving us that extra understanding of what is an increasingly difficult and complex situation. Monte Francis from our news desk.